Here behind the screen, I have to see it. Ciao, Gigi Lamorosa is here. You ready? So my name is Rodrigo Sepúlveda. I'm not in the wine business at all. Actually, my job is venture capitalist. That means that I manage money for a lot of people and that I invest in companies to help them grow. We started 4 years ago. We've seen 6,500 different opportunities. We've only invested in 19 of them. One is already dead. Some of the others are doing really well. And we're based in Luxembourg. The topic of today, we'll discuss artificial intelligence, and I'll discuss with you my point of view. And in my trade, venture capital, we have to have a point of view and decide really quick. There's a book by the founder of Siri, the voice recognition pattern of Apple, Luc Julia, and he says AI doesn't exist, and I'll come back to that on why. Then I'll discuss a little bit about blockchain after that, and I'll also sustain the thesis that it's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. So context. Why does this matter and why is this so important? If you look at it, 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago, at the end of 2009, the world economy was dominated by oil companies. Tech was less than 20%, represented more or less 400 billion in market cap. Just 10 years later, 7 of the top 10 companies in public markets are tech companies, 7 out of 10. They represent 80% of that, and that is more than 5 trillion. So 4 times market share, 10 times the size. Why is that? Well, we've seen an extraordinary explosion of the number of internet users. Depending on the sources you look at, we're between 4 billion and 4.5 billion internet users. That's more than 50% of the world's population is now online. This happened at some point late last year. Now, why is that? Something happened in the summer of 2007, which was the launch of the iPhone. And that allowed people, new people, to come into the internet. It was reserved for people like me before that, geeks. Now we brought in children, women, elderly people who were not online. If you exclude maybe some of the less wealthy people in the world, more or less everyone is now online. That's the conclusion. Since we're in Italy, this is a picture of San Marcos, of the Vatican, and you see that in 2005, people on the piazza had no phones. Fast forward 8 years, everyone's holding a phone. Same thing happens everywhere at concerts, for example. We don't know how to live without a phone. You would take a subway anywhere in the world, everyone's looking at their phones. Now, if you look at differently around the world, and this is really important for the wine business, depending on where you sell your wines, who's online? The Western world is mainly 100% online. The 15 to 20% missing are kids, for example. Babies don't yet have smartphones. That might come up soon. Where is the growth coming? It's coming from Asia, and it's coming from Africa. So you have huge potential to bring them online, which means also huge potential for you to get in early in that areas. And if you look at the number of users today, a lot of them are in Asia, right? And it's mainly China, but also increasingly India, with a new operator that came up just a few years ago called Joy, bringing everyone online on 5G. Now, a few other things have happened on the internet since 15 years. Facebook, for example, has about 2.7 billion users. These are the official numbers of the second quarter this year. Third quarter, 2.7 billion users. That's China plus India. It's the biggest country in the world with issues of governance, I would say. But more interestingly, about 1.7 billion are active every single day. They connect every day. Incredible distribution pattern that didn't exist before, that allows anyone to communicate or to sell to the world instantly. This didn't exist before. If you look at another service, in just 10 years, a company such as Instagram, also belongs to Facebook, have reached 1 billion users. And actually, if you look at the top services in the world, Facebook as a service, the blue application is coming down, but what's going up is YouTube, that is Google, and it's Instagram. So if you think of distribution for that. So how does that work? I'm sure you're familiar with the game of chess. There's an ancient tale of someone who played against the king of Persia. He won. The king says, have whatever you want. And he said, well, why don't you give me some rice and we'll measure it this way. I'll put 1 grain of rice on the first square, double that on the second square, redouble that, redouble that. In 7 steps, 7th square, the order of magnitude is 100 times. It's 128. In 20 squares, it's a millionth time. In 30 squares, 30 steps, it's 1 billion times bigger. If we got to the 64th square, it would be more than the number of grains of sands in the world. Okay? This is what we call the rule of exponential growth. This is what digital technologies are following. It was historically known as Moore's Law, which meant that the power of computing power of microchips would double every 18 months on average. Please note it's a logarithmic scale, so it looks like a straight line. It's an exponential curve. Massive computing power. We are today more or less to the capacity of computing power of a rat, expected to get to the computing power of a brain in the next 5 years. There is a definition of something called the Turing test that says we cannot recognize whether it's computing power interacting with a user or a human interacting with a user. That's called the singularity, right? Depending on definition, that is expected in 2028 or 2048. Okay, but we're almost there. Since we're discussing artificial intelligence, does this matter or not? I'll need the AV in the back. So is this where we're going at?
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
So this was Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece, right, 2001. Is this the artificial intelligence we're afraid of? Is this the artificial intelligence we're reading about all the time? Is this the artificial intelligence that we're referring to when people talk about AI? I will sustain that it is not, for a number of reasons. The first breakthrough in AI was in 1997, so 22 years ago, when a computer built by IBM beat the world's grandmaster, best chess player in the world. And we thought that's the end of human intelligence. It's not. What happened there is they built a very, 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 very big computer, consumes a lot of energy. A human being consumes about 100 watts per hour, right? And this computer can only do one thing, play chess. And it plays chess by what we call brute force. It was fed all the existing games that were ever played, put in an examples with the outcome of that game, because the number of possibilities is almost infinite, and stored as a knowledge base to teach it how to play. This is what we call an A to B kind of artificial intelligence. I'll skip all the lingo about it. We know a lot of stuff, we put a lot of computing power and we saw it's increasing, and it can get from A to B. This is not intelligence. This is what we call a decision tree to some extent. Now, what is really AI is what we call machine learning. The machine figures out the rules by itself on how to play a game. A game can be any situation, any business situation, right? So this is a short description of what actually machine learning is. In 20 years after the game that Kasparov lost, Another computer, AlphaGo, that was actually acquired by Google afterwards, beat the European champion in Go, applying the same technique, putting in all the knowledge we had, which is called heuristics, and it beat the European champion with difficulty. The Korean champion of the world said, ha, 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 I'll beat that machine, no problem. Went on TV, showed up late, and lost. Now, what happened between the European champion and the world champion is the team at Google figured they would not beat the world champion with this. So they had the program play against itself with no previous knowledge. It says, figure out how to play and play against another instance of yourself. After 2 weeks, it had figured out how to play in ways that the world champion of Go could not recognize. Completely creative. Actually, this is a trick when you play in online tournaments. If you're going too creative, they know that you're cheating. You're using a computer to play. Okay? So this little video will show you what actually machine learning is.
Machine learning is a field of technology that allows machines to learn from data and self-improve. Machine learning has really been around for a long time, but it's now becoming increasingly useful and relevant for 3 reasons. First, there's more data than ever before. Second, computers are more powerful than they used to be. And third, we have better machine learning algorithms. As a result, machine learning is already present all around us. It's used to recommend purchases on the internet or to detect fraud on your credit card. And there's really nothing magical about this. Let me give you some examples of how machine learning works. Let's say you want to design a machine learning algorithm that makes movie recommendations for your Friday night based on your preferences. All the users on the platform give thumbs up to movies they like. So the algorithm knows that Bob likes The Lion King and Casablanca, but not, I don't know, Rogue One. Sarah likes The Lion King, Casablanca, and Billy Elliot. And maybe Larry, on the other hand, hates Casablanca, but loves Rogue One. Now let's say that you give a thumbs up to Casablanca. What the machine learning algorithm does is calculate how similar your preferences are to those of the other users in the database. In this case, your preference for Casablanca will make you closer to Sarah and Bob than to Larry. So because they like them, the algorithm would then propose The Lion King or Billy Elliot for your movie night. This algorithm is called nearest neighbor because you're using information about your nearest neighbors, in this case Sarah and Bob, to make a prediction about your preferences. This is an example of supervised learning. We train the machine learning algorithm based on examples given by users.
So what they said is you need a lot of data, a lot of computing power, and a lot of algorithms that are readily available. The way this works is what we call neural networks. You take an A to B problem and feed the output from B into the next A. Thousands or hundreds of thousands of times. This is what we call a neural network. So you remember Google 6 or 7 years ago fed in 10 million pictures randomly, and it actually came out that they could identify a cat automatically. Okay? The way this is done, for example, is that the first neuron will identify where there's a difference of color between one pixel, so one dot, and the next pixel. It will feed that result into the next neuron. The other one will recognize when there's a straight line, feed that into the next one. The next one will figure out when there's a circle, feed it to the next one. The other one will feed and recognize when there's a triangle, feed it to the next one. We'll recognize when there are 2 triangles and a circle. And that's how it actually learns how to recognize a cat. This was 6 years ago. And we thought that was incredible. Following the exponential law, now Google is trying to identify thousands of species. The level of progress and innovation in this space is phenomenal. So now let's go back to the roll of wine video.
AI is everywhere. It helps us find music we like. It helps us find a date. Yes, please. It helps us keep our house at the right temperature. And now, AI helps us discover the wine we like.
How? With a new wine tasting app.
Palette Club.
So the way it works is they send you a sample of wine, you rate them according to a number of criteria. This is Palette Club. You send them back, or you have other wines, and after a number of iterations, actually it has learned what your tastes are, right? And it starts recommending stuff. Well, this is not real AI, this is A to B problem, because depending on who you are, they put you in a bucket, and that bucket will be given a certain recommendation. It's not personalized. But a lot of other people are trying to do the same thing, and they call themselves AI. For example, chatbots on Messenger proposing you different kinds of wine. This is a decision tree in a very narrow context that has an input and an output. I was in January at a competition between one of the world's top sommeliers, she's actually number 4, was number 4 best sommelier in the world, against a software robot called Matcha. And they gave them a number of challenges. So this is me in the room taking the pictures, Alain de Tony is the chef, so he said, I'm cooking 3 different dishes, what's the best wine pairing? Well, humans did slightly better than the machine. Second challenge, you go to a wine store, you give, I would like something like this, we'll give you a recommendation. Humans did slightly better still, not that much. Third, they say, why don't you build us, according to these constraints, a wine list for a restaurant? And here, the machine won, right? And the judges were the chefs, saying, this is what I would like to have on my list. So it's very close. You will see a lot of AI being proposed as AI. You can consider it to be AI for sales and marketing. It's not really AI, but still, we're getting really close. What I said earlier, if you saw the little videos, you need a lot of data to train a machine, train a model getting there, right? So if you look at Vivino, for example, which is this app to scan a label and identify what the bottle is, they've had 1 billion different scans. That's enough data to start creating recommendations, personalized recommendations. And he's speaking today, Heidi, somewhere, so you should go and listen to him. One challenge of big data is that it's biased almost always. So if you're an insurance company, for example, and you're getting claims from, whatever, sick people, and you're fitting all the claims are sick people, and you're never adding claims of healthy people who by definition don't fit in data, your machine is biased. Microsoft had an experiment 2 years ago. They launched a natural language bot online, and people knew it was learning, so they started swearing at the machine. And the machine started becoming like a Nazi speaker after 24 hours, right? Or the other day, Apple came out with the Apple Card, and it's a bias. Since there was more information from men coming in, men got credit scores that were 20 times better than women because the data that was fed in was not representative. So that is one of the big challenges of having data. Now, to my sense, where would AI make sense in the wine world? Real AI is where we can have a lot of data. So climate changing, of course. We've added 1 degree, about to add 1.5. This is one of the companies we invest in. It has sent 90 satellites into space, and it's building has built by now, the best weather forecasting model in the world. That can be applied to precision viticulture. And it works like this.
CubeSats. So the idea is, instead of having one single satellite, you have a constellation or a fleet. This is just a simulation, but what it shows is that by having lots of satellites in different places, you can see how you have a greater view of the planet.
So what this constellation does, it actually gives you very precise measures of weather locally. You don't need a weather station anymore in the vineyard. Actually, you can have it in real time. Not every 12 hours, not every 24 hours, in real time. So if you look at Laura Catena, for example, here,
is the most beautiful place in the world.
and she'll say,
About
just
20 years
speeding
ago, I
up,
came to this place
her
and saw
terroir-
that there were some parts of the vineyard where the vines were growing and thriving, and other parts where they looked so sad. And I asked the viticulturist, what's going on? And he said, if I could replant this vineyard, I would pull out all the vines, mix the soil
She
with
says
the
she has
bulldozer,
300
and then
terroirs in a
replant.
single
The
vineyard.
soils were
She should
completely
treat
different.
each little
From
plot
one place
differently.
Right here to
Now, there are a number of companies and technologies out there. For example, this one uses 20 different radio signals to map all kinds of things. And I've seen companies that map soil moisture fertilizer to the carbon content, nitrogen content, phenolic ripeness, etc. in the vineyard. I'll skip a couple of videos because of time. But you can actually go in there. There's so much information that changes all the time. No human mind can assess this in real time. So here you can actually use machines that learn what is useful and make recommendations. I have a video here for a company in New Zealand that uses that for watering specifically words per minute. We'll skip that one. This is another example of AI. AI does pattern recognition really, really well. It's used a lot in maintenance in factories to detect defects. Here what it does is this little robot uses AI to detect weed and put pesticides specifically on the little plant to do so. And there are a lot of robots out there that get a lot of data. So in the end, you can actually have maps like this, not static, not once a year, but in real time of all kind of parameters, since we're promoting all kinds of different sensors today. So for example, here soils or varietals or kind of wines where they are grown. So where would AI make sense in the wine business? Only in places where you have a lot of clean data. Vivino is a good example. Precision viticulture is another example. We're having more and more drones to help do this. Careful in the bias of the information we feed into these models. All the vendors will not tell you about this if you work with whoever, and I'll show you a couple in blockchain. Be careful of this. Now, blockchain. Blockchain, as I said, is not, in spite of what you read in the press, the best thing since sliced bread. A lot of people want you to believe this. So IBM has a huge practice about this. The Linux Foundation has Hyperledger. A lot of people are deploying it. Let me show you what blockchain is.
When you vote, have you ever wondered whether your ballot is actually counted? If you meet someone online, how do you know they're who they say they are? When you buy coffee that's labeled fair trade, what makes you so certain of its origin? To be sure, really sure, about any of those questions, you'd need a system where records could be stored, facts could be verified by anyone, and security is guaranteed. That way, no one could cheat the system by editing records, because everyone using the system would be watching. Systems like this are on the horizon, and the software that powers them is called a blockchain. Blockchains store information across a network of...
Without going into the technicalities of blockchain, you'll see videos like this everywhere, articles in the press everywhere, suppliers everywhere tell you the blockchain is all about the trust economy or sometimes the value economy. Is it? I think it's way too early to tell. And there are a number of problems with blockchain. And there's a panel after me here on blockchain and wine, so you'll go into that. And Maureen is talking about it. One thing that is confusing, myth number one, is when we talk about blockchain, it's not cryptocurrency. It's not Bitcoin. It's one of the technologies underlying Bitcoin. It's not the same. It's a bit like if I said, I'm selling a database, that's blockchain, and I'm doing an e-commerce site, and that is the Bitcoin. It's an app on it. Or I'm a seller of tracks, and all the train companies are Bitcoin. So let's not confuse that. And Bitcoin has a big volatility, as you know. Second, we talk about the blockchain. That's not true. If you go back 30 years, we said the internet, not really. There were private networks inside companies. There were public networks. They were not interconnected. Some were using IP. Some were using SNA. Some were using NetBIOS. Some were using IPX. So that's the Linux or Unix world, the Novell, the Microsoft, the IBM. All were different technologies. Today, they're not interconnected. So it's not the blockchain. It's a blockchain. Even in the Bitcoin world, it has forked. Fork is when there is a separation and they start behaving differently of different blockchains infrastructure. So that's a second myth. There's not the blockchain. When you say it's secured on the blockchain, no. It's maybe secured on one implementation of blockchain. Then we talk about the immutable ledger. Means an information is stored forever. the serial number of your precious Romanée Conti is stored there, and we will know forever that it's there. We've been doing accounting in the same way for the past 50 or 60 years with computers. It does not belong to the blockchain, right? Now, what the blockchain does, that's the innovation, is that it takes the information you had, creates a little mathematical code that we call a hash, and inserts that in the next block, right? And then it takes the mathematical hash of the first two blocks, inserts it in the third block. So actually, any block has in itself, if you will, the DNA of your parent, of your grandparent, great-grandparent. So if you wanted to modify the integrity of the information, you would have to modify the DNA of your parent, of your grandparent, great-grandparent, okay? But that can be hacked. I'll get to that. Then we say the blockchain has distributed copies. No one can modify it one. Well, we've been doing distributed copies forever. Just go to Wikipedia, replication of databases, nothing new here. We say the blockchain is unhackable. Have you heard of the MIT? There you go, MIT Technology Review. How to hack the blockchain. Very simple. If we say the code is like the gentleman in the first row, everyone comes in a suit and a tie. And everyone is dressed more or less the same. Hence, I know the dress code for this room is suit and tie. But if I show up with half the people plus one in jeans and sneakers like me, I become the new dress code. I take over the blockchain, right? So it's not that unhackable. We say the blockchain has smart contracts. For example, if you sell, whatever, 100 cases of my wine, you get one free. You can encode that automatically on the blockchain. That has been called a trigger in databases forever. Nothing new. We say eliminate the middleman. Everyone wants to eliminate the middleman. Not true. I rented a house once in Ibiza. When we showed there was no one. It was a fake website. You do want a middleman that can guarantee a transaction, right? It's extremely important. You don't want to go on Airbnb or on eBay without someone guaranteeing. So that illusion of we're eliminating the middleman is not what we want. Actually, all Bitcoin or blockchain, sorry for that, all blockchain projects have a foundation to manage the governance of the blockchain. They're actually taking away the middleman but putting back a middleman. So that's actually not true. Now, those were myths. Now we have a few problems, and I don't go into all of them. But today, the blockchain is very slow because it does a lot of calculation, and the first protocols, the first way of interacting, required something called proof of work, requires a lot of energy, a lot of computing power, so it's slow. It might take 3 or 4 hours to insert into the blockchain a new block. So if you go and buy your your bread, and you're waiting at the counter for 3.5 hours until you get your money back and you can leave, it doesn't work. Okay, no problem. If you remember, there were modems at 14K a long time ago. Now we're at a gig. It will change. But you might have heard that Facebook and a few others launched a cryptocurrency called Libra based on the blockchain, right? 25 partners originally. Top of page 2 of the white paper, the propaganda prospectus of Libra, it says it doesn't scale the blockchain, so we're doing it a private blockchain. Okay, so we're not there yet. My main concern, however, with people promoting the blockchain is your blockchain future-proof? Everyone is selling, I'm putting the authenticity of this bottle on the blockchain so that you can test it when you buy it in 30 years, that it's the real one. Imagine I put that authenticity certificate in a VHS tape. How many of you still have a VHS reader at home? Or that startup that's proposing that service, will it be around in 30 years? Or even worse, and I had this discussion with Gaia, who's on the other side, do you want to enter in an exclusive relationship with one provider for the next 30 years today? Probably not. So it works in certain situations, such as supply chain, which is operating in real time. In the 30 years, it's complicated. It's even complicated for Libra. Not even a year, and all the financial players have pulled out. All of them. Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, etc. So it's a lot of promise. It's very early. It's hard. I was at a conference in Helsinki 3 days ago where there was the panel on hype and reality for blockchain. And everyone agreed. It's also only reality in the crypto world today if you believe in that model. Nowhere else, right? So Mohan will discuss blockchain and wine in a bit, right? But there are a lot of other people trying to do this. Blockchain for luxury watches. There are also blockchains for collectible vintage sardine boxes. So to me, blockchain is just a tool, right? You've got to try it out, because if you don't try anything, you'll never get anywhere, you won't learn. But there's still a lot of problems to be solved, and it's way, way, way too early to actually commit something to it. And if you were, it would only work for, I think, day-to-day operations such as supply chain or production, not for guaranteeing authenticity of vintage sardine boxes or luxury watches, or you finish my sentence, right? So in summary, we're all following exponential law, so it's moving really, really, really fast, and you saw the numbers, 2.7 billion in 15 years users for Facebook, 1 billion for Instagram, computing power, storage, blockchain. It'll be here, but it'll take a bit of more time. You need a lot of clean data, and really, really be careful about biases. I think there's a lot to be done in precision viticulture today, maybe in sales and marketing for AI. Blockchain, I don't know. But my real message here is beware of hype. Again, we see about 2,000 opportunities a year. We do maybe 10. And a lot of them have blockchain in them. So we discard them immediately. And if you don't experiment, then you'll never get anywhere. I'd like to leave with a little video of an Australian guy making wine over there that has the best words.
We can see here, these are our original concrete vats, wax-lined vats that we use for fermenting our top-end red, mainly Shiraz in these vats. And even though they're our oldest, from the late 1800s, we still find them that they're probably the best fermentation vessel we have. And whether it's the old basket press or the hand-pruned vineyards, sometimes it is reinventing the wheel, and using the oldest and most traditional methods work the best, you know. As winemakers, we have all this wonderful technology available to us, but you know, it's the fight that we need to fight every day against. You know, technology's great, you get home a little bit earlier, but doesn't make you any more creative necessarily. So sometimes it is these old things that get you thinking, and you know, thinking about why you're doing things and the history about it. That's what we enjoy here at Tyrrell's, and the results we get from them are fantastic.
So technology is just technology, right? Thank you very much. And I believe I am allowed to answer a lot of questions.
I have a question.
Hello.
Hi. What do you think, is there a disconnect between the technology itself and what consumers perceive it to be? So do they see the value in it? Do consumers see the value in blockchain and AI?
I wouldn't answer in the same way. You use AI today every single day, right? And you just don't know about it. For example, your Gmail account uses an AI filter to filter out all the spam you get, right? Your phone shows you by magic where you want to go. Right, on Uber, it finds the places you want to go because it recognizes them. So AI is already here, and it provides a huge benefit, except no one sells it as AI. And people are kind of scared with the picture of the robot I showed about AI. which is not the case. We require a huge machine to do just one thing, whereas us as humans can do a lot of things for almost nothing. Blockchain, on the contrary, I don't think anyone understands what it is. No one understands what's the value. I have a timepiece. I don't understand the value of storing my certificate of authenticity of my timepiece on a blockchain and expect it to be there in 30 years. Maybe if I had, a seller of 3,000 super rare bottles, I would probably put them there to trace them where I bought them from. But I think we're still way behind getting there anytime soon. Anyone else?
What happened to see to get a lot of information. Why these technology companies are trying to sell it as artificial intelligence?
So you always need differentiation to sell a product, unless you're competing on price. So all of these startups kind of ride new waves of innovation and try to make money out of it, promoting something. Another of the big hypes we saw in the past 2 or 3 years was virtual reality. Everyone was trying to do that. We said very early on, no, it's not for us. Another hype that is really hidden for you is all the startups that think they can have an advertisement-based business model. The market is 200 billion online, over a market of 550 billion for advertisement. Google does 135. Facebook does about 52. There's 10 billion of a 200 billion market left for everyone else. Right? So everyone tries to promote a new technology because they think they can see the light, but many of the entrepreneurs we see don't have a holistic view of the market. And it's normal. I mean, we see a lot of opportunities. They probably see 1% of that. Now, the larger companies, and this is where the mistake is, that's why I have IBM in there, then try to sell people. And people are confused, clients are confused, so they try to push new technologies and build competency centers, and will help you build your AI strategy, help you build your blockchain strategy. But if you think from 35 feet, you should better do what the Tyrrell guy says, the old VATs work the best still, and technology does not replace creativity. I think Stefan here has a question, front row. No, he doesn't. Yeah. So we actually manage 2 different funds, so this is kind of a more personal question. We have a fund called the Digital Tech Fund, and the strategy of that fund is companies that are located or relocating to Luxembourg. Right, that's the ones on the right. And that is because we raise money from the Luxembourg government to do that. Now, the ones on the left, on the Expon 1 fund, we invest according to one simple strategy, which is we only invest in companies that can have a massive positive impact on the world. Massive to us means 500 million target people. So that's a continent. We don't do any country-specific business. So it's either all of Europe minimum, or all of North America, all of LATAM, or the world. We only do companies that have transformative tech, so 10x, not incremental. We want a disruption. That's why we're risk capital. And the positive impact, we align them with the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if you've read them, you just Google UN SDGs. Health, education, prosperity, male-female gender balance, north-south equality, life underwater, etc. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Glovo is a food delivery company. It's 4.5 years old. It has 45,000 couriers. in 26 countries, 207 cities. They've created jobs for 45,000 people. If you're in California, where the unemployment rate is 3.7%, it's not a problem. And you can have a law that says, actually, the gig economy, they're employees. When you're in Spain, where the official unemployment is 14%, and for the youth it's 35%, giving them job dignity, that's what we call prosperity, right? If you look at WeFarm, it's a social network for farmers in East Africa, in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. We have 2 million active farmers exchanging between 50 and 80,000 messages every day, sending them to the community. And on average, they get a response in 13 minutes. We're bridging the gap north and south by digitizing them. All of that is done through text. If you look at Catalyte, they build an artificial intelligence model in which they detect talent in low-skilled workers, so baristas, dog walkers, FedEx delivery people, and turn them into software engineers in a year and a half. And they go from 27K to over 100K. Spire, I showed you the little satellites. Actually, the impact is huge. It's for the whole world. It's forecasting the weather for natural catastrophe, for agriculture, etc. Finally, Plyops, it's a semiconductor company in Tel Aviv. They have a technology on a chip that reduces energy consumption by better management of data by 30% in data centers. Data centers today consume 4% of the world's energy, projected to go up to 20 to 25%. If you can reduce that, that's responsible consumption. So that's the common denominator of what we do.
I mean, whenever people talk about tech, we always talk about disruption. Over the last 5-7 years, we've always seen different traditional business models that were disrupted via mobile app, or new ways or new mentalities of consumers, young consumers consuming data or desiring to consume regular consumer goods via a different platform. So my question is, how ripe do you think the wine industry is for potential tech disruption in your perspective?
So it's not business models, because business models haven't changed, and there are about 5 or 6 of them. Buy, sell with a margin is one business model. Subscription is another business model, etc. There are not that many. What is disrupted are complete industries. I think the answer to your question is a bit like the Burgundy model. The revenue of each estate is so small that they can hardly cover capex, right? So at a greater scale, the wine world, it's an investment that you're not ready to make today in all of these technologies. The good news is, when I was an entrepreneur, not even 20 years ago, we had to pay $2 million to buy our servers, $1 million a year for licenses of Oracle. So it was very expensive. Today, you can do the same thing for $5K maybe on Amazon Web Services. You can rent it out. There were no data scientists. All of that is available. You don't need to hire them. There's a service called Kaggle for doing AI. You just put a challenge up there, and the best people will compete, and you pay a bounty for the best people, and you've found the best person ever. So are you ripe for it? Totally. Totally. Everyone is. The challenge that we see is knowledge, awareness that this exists. So this is why I'm here, and conference I'm invited to talk at. But also to experiment. You need to be able to afford a failure several times. In our world, 1 out of 10 companies will succeed really. 3 or 4 will get our money back, and 5 or 6 will actually lose everything. We know that. When you try a project within a winery or within a marketing house for wine, etc., you've got to try different things and be ready to fail. And it's okay, because you're learning, and you can reflect on what didn't work, so you can do it better next time or differently. You know, what it said is definition of insanity is doing the same thing all the time and expecting a different result.
Due to the costs. Do you believe in a close future they will be enough accessible to become a mainstream thing, or you think it will take some more time?
Give it 2 or 3 years. Because of the exponential law I showed you, indeed, I saw this precision viticulture maps, in Bordeaux on the left bank. They had them on the wall. They paid once a year. It's 400 euros for a picture. And they say, I could never afford more. But people like Tyrannis, they come out of Airbus. You actually can subscribe to that. It's still expensive somehow. But the cost of that, everything is coming down. It's incredible. You'll have it on your phone in real time in 2 to 3 years max.
I mean more the use of robotics, like the weed killer you showed us. I mean, when you think these things will become enough affordable to become a mainstream tool?
It's microeconomics. There is economies of scale. So you need to be able to produce them at scale. So people have to know they exist, buy them, use them, and then the cost will come down. So that might take maybe a little bit more. What we see, I mean, there are a lot of different drones like that. So drones on wheels, not flying ones. I've identified 8 or 9 different ones. They're all prototypes today, done by different universities. There's a funky one, it's a platform done by Stellenbosch University. There's a French one called Viti Rover that does that. There's an Italian one that actually cuts weeds. A couple years max. They're very useful. What has really, really changed is that we have access to data through sensors, more and more sensors everywhere. Computing power is almost free. Storage of data is almost free. Access to all of this is almost free. We all have flat rates on our mobile phones that actually go super fast. When 5G comes in, it's been deployed a little bit everywhere, you'll have all of this. I'm convinced.
And they will be mostly with solar panels, so also sustainable in terms of energy use, probably.
Not sure about that. I mean, they could go back, for example, on a route like the Roomba vacuum cleaners do. They do a run and then they go back, they recharge and come back. So it will depend on battery or solar panel, whatever. But I don't think that's the point. It's the usage of the drone, definitely. Thank you, everyone. I think our time is up. Thank you for filling the room. Makes me feel great. Oh, and I'm around for the next 2 days, so feel free.